talking about something that's bad for you and we need to pay you to take, which would be a risk increase, then we're going to talk about your marginal willingness to accept for that risk increase. So we've actually already done, we've already done sort of one of these in the course when we did when you guys did the survey, and I kind of mentioned it briefly back then, I think. So we did a survey where I asked you how much your willingness to pay was for an airbag, and for at least some of you, I actually defined exactly how much the airbag was expected to increase or rather decrease your risk of dying over the next like 5 years. And so if we had a case where, say, the airbag cost $500 and reduced the risk of dying in a car crash from 0.002 to 0.0019, so that works out to I guess a 1 in 10,000 risk reduction. So the change in the amount of risk is 1 in 10,000. The marginal willingness to pay, if you said that you were willing to buy that airbag, would have been $500. And so then the VSL would have been the marginal willingness to pay divided by the risk reduction, which works out to $5 million. So that's actually like not very far from what we find in studies, right? So the EPA value is $6.9 million. The reason it's that value is because there are a lot of studies that found values in that range. And we'll talk about those today. But that one's not too far off. That said, when we surveyed the class, there was a wide range of answers. Some of them were above that, and I think there were 3 that were far below that and worked out to VSLs of like, I don't know, I forget what it was like $50,000 or $100,000. It was like very, very low compared to the typical response. Willingness to accept? Yeah, no, it could be. And this is a case where like you could potentially have the most extreme differential between willingness to accept and willingness to pay, right? In the sense that because willingness to pay is always going to be bounded by your wealth or your ability to borrow or whatever, whereas willingness to accept can be unbounded. So if we were talking about like really, really risky situations, willingness to pay might be it's like the nuclear reactor at Fukushima where it was like melting down, and they're like, can you go in and turn off some safety valve? And by the way, there's like a 50% chance you're going to get fatal radiation poisoning and be gone in like a day, right? There's a scenario where you might be, and if it was like you have to do this unless you, or like how much would you pay to avoid being forced to do this? You might say like, well, everything I have. Whereas like willingness to accept, they might say we'll pay you $1 billion, and you're like, forget it, I still don't want to do that. So this is a case where those could diverge substantially. I think that so we'll talk about sort of scenario or the actual scenarios that economists use to try to calculate these values. I would say more of them involve like willingness to pay in the sense that there's lots of studies that look at sort of like how much people are willing to pay for a given item that will increase safety, so something like a smoke detector or something like that. There are those sort of also ones that are informed by willingness to accept, which would be more like the labor market type studies where you're thinking of taking a riskier job and then you have to think about how much additional wages like you'll need to be compensated for that risk. So again, I want to stress, this is the value of statistical life. We're not thinking about the value that somebody would be willing to pay for their life, or the value that society should assign to somebody's life, where we're talking about like taking a life with 100% probability. So what we're really saying here is we're assigning a dollar value to a small change in the probability of losing human life, and then basically rescaling that number up to get back up to like a 100% chance of somebody dying. That being said, given the law of large numbers, you could argue that conducting benefit cost analyses using a VSL means that we are trading somebody's life for $7 million, right? So it's like even so, if we had some, say, okay, we're going to accept additional pollution, we think that with the higher pollution level, there's like a 1 in 100,000 chance that a given person would have a heart attack and die. For any given person, obviously the additional risk is very low, but if you were talking about a population of 100 million people, it's basically almost certain that at least one and probably many more people would end up dying because of this additional pollution. So, at the end of the day, you are sort of in theory trading somebody's life for the benefits, which presumably be like additional money here. But I guess at least like it's not clear whose life. So sort of you could say that ex ante, that's like sort of the veil of ignorance where you don't know who's going to draw the short straw. So I mean, this is more sort of like a moral philosophical question than something that economic theory can really inform. Okay, so in terms of the actual estimates that economists find when they use this methodology, generally if we're talking about the U.S. or other industrialized countries, they're centered in these sort of several $1 million range. So there's a paper on the syllabus that provides a pretty comprehensive review of VSL estimates. I don't read the whole paper; it's like pretty long, but I think it is instructive to browse the tables. There's basically sort of like 3 types of evidence that they use. So one is U.S. labor market studies. So this is like looking at riskier jobs and seeing how much more you have to be compensated to take those jobs. So this is what economists call a compensating differential. Basically, that some jobs are unpleasant either because they're risky or they're just like they're like the garbage man, which might also be risky, but obviously just unpleasant because of the smell and everything. So the idea is that all things being equal, you need to be compensated with additional wages to take these jobs. There's also non-labor market studies. So this is more looking at like safety-related items that people buy, how much they're willing to pay for them. And then finally, the sort of complement of the U.S. labor market studies are these international labor market studies, which give us some sense of maybe how VSL varies in different regions of the world. So the sort of bad news, maybe, depending on how confident you want to be in the estimates, is that there is a wide range. So like in this is like basically a summary, a literature summary, or a literature survey paper. So it is taking estimates from lots and lots and lots of different studies. But the sort of on the low end, there was at least one study that found a VSL as low as $500,000, and on the high end, there was one that found $21 million. So obviously that's a huge range. That being said, they do tend to be clustered more in the several $1 million range. And these are sort of the outliers, the lowest and the highest that I just put up there. So what these studies do is they basically regress wages on job risk and other potential sort of job or worker characteristics. The reason, so the regression of wages on job risk, that job risk coefficient. So job risk would be like the chance that you're going to meet a fatal accident in a given job. The coefficient on that job risk variable is the coefficient of interest here. We want to know how much wages change when the job becomes riskier. The problem is that there are unobserved characteristics about the job, or maybe in some cases observed characteristics about the job that are probably correlated both with the wage rate and also with the job risk, right? So like a lot of riskier jobs. So in general, risky jobs are going to be what you call like blue collar jobs, right? Like any white collar job which involves working in an office is probably not going to be very dangerous. So they are going to be sort of more like blue collar or maybe sort of like heavy industry types of jobs, and those jobs are sort of very different from office jobs on a number of dimensions, not just risk. So like for example, coal mining is a very dangerous job. It's also a very unpleasant job for other reasons. You're down in the dark, it gets really hot there, it's super cramped, you're like sweating all the time. It's just not a pleasant job, and so hopefully, I assume it's the case that like coal mining jobs pay more than sort of an equivalent. It's also like not a very high skilled job, but sort of an equivalently skilled job that is not as risky. Hopefully they do in fact pay more. But you can't attribute all of that differential just to compensating people for the higher risk, right? You also are compensating them for the fact that they have to like go down into the coal mine for 10 hours a day or whatever. So that's why, in general, the studies are trying to sort of control for as many of these job and worker characteristics as they possibly can. But there's only so many sort of observable variables you can code up about even a job. So the two primary problems with these studies are, first of all, omitted variables bias, which is what I just described. And then the other thing that kind of is an issue here is that we think that the sample is not really representative. So in particular, if we're talking about jobs like coal mining or like going and driving trucks and like on icy roads in Alaska or something, also a dangerous job, these types of jobs are probably going to be like generally done by younger males who have a relatively high tolerance of risk. So basically the implication is you're kind of figuring out how much younger males are willing to trade off additional risk for additional pay, but that's not the same as trying to figure out how much the like average person in the population would be willing to trade off additional risk for additional pay. And we saw even in this, so the age distribution of people in this class is is not widely dispersed. It's probably like plus or minus a couple of years. But even in this class, we did see that I think there were 3 people who were only willing to pay like $20 or something for an airbag, and they were all male. So we even see here that there's a probably higher risk tolerance for males than for females. That makes it sound like a good thing, but it's really not. So that's sort of a very brief summary of the labor market evidence. Then the second sort of category of studies that they look at are these non-labor market VSL studies. So these ones are a little bit more tightly clustered. So again, the sort of the average study is finding an estimate somewhere in the several $1 million range, but on the low end they had a $770,000 study, and on the high end they had basically like a $10 million study. So what these studies are doing is they're basically observing the attributes of, or observing purchases of things like automobiles, in particular like associated automobile safety equipment, so things like airbags, anti-lock brakes, and so forth, or safety products like smoke detectors, bike helmets, or even studies that look at people's willingness to pay for houses that are near toxic waste dumps, which presumably imparts additional risk. There's the leukemia study that we'll talk about not today, but on Monday. So they're looking at all these different potential market transactions. I mean, given studies usually only looking at like one of these things, so they're not looking at bike helmets or something, looking at smoke detectors. But they're looking at all these market transactions where people are basically buying goods that will either improve their, reduce their risk or potentially expose them to maybe more risk if you're thinking about buying a house near a toxic waste site as opposed to buying a house that's not near one. But in most cases, what you're measuring here is essentially willingness to pay for relatively small safety improvements. And once you measure that willingness to pay, then you can calculate the values of school life by taking the willingness to pay and dividing through by safety improvement. With these studies, there's still a couple primary problems. So again, there can be omitted variables bias. The problem here is now generally there could be like unobserved attributes or unobserved characteristics about the say the automobile or the house that could be correlated with risk. So let's suppose that you're deciding between one car that has airbags and another that doesn't. That's not a choice people make anymore because all cars have airbags today, but there was a time when airbags were new and only some cars offered them. The ones that offered them initially, so when you were so you couldn't do that study today because it's just their equipment, so you can't buy a car without airbags. But when you could do the study back in say like the early 1990s, the cars that offered them were, as you might imagine, sort of like more likely to be luxury models, sort of higher end cars, and the cars that didn't offer them were sort of less expensive cars. So to the extent that you see a price differential between, say, a car that has airbags and a car that doesn't, you don't know how much of that price differential is because of the airbag specifically versus how much is because it might just be more luxurious car that has more horsepower and maybe has more like power features and stuff like that, just more options in general. And so unless you can sort of observe each of the differences between those two cars and control for all of those differences, you're going to conflate some of the price increase that you think is due to risk, you're going to conflate it, or some of the price increase that you think is due to risk is going to instead be actually due to the additional features of the car. Same thing with the houses. If you're like comparing a house that's next to a toxic waste dump versus one that's not, it's unlikely that those two houses are exactly similar in all ways, right? Maybe the one that's near a toxic waste dump also is not well maintained and is like smaller, has fewer bedrooms or something like that, because why are you going to invest a ton of money in a house that's next to a toxic waste dump? So omitted variables bias can definitely be a problem in many of these cases. Not all though. I mean, like smoke detectors, that's probably a case where there's not really an omitted variables bias problem because there's nothing, like literally the only reason you buy the smoke detector is because it reduces your risk of like dying in a fire or maybe property damage. But really mainly just death because like the smoke detector going off and there's a fire, unless you happen to have like a fire engine in your living room with a hose charge, you're not going to be able to stop the fire. You just evacuate the house and save your life. So with the smoke detectors, I would say it's probably that's the case where there probably isn't omitted variables bias. The bike helmets, that's not ambiguous. There's probably omitted variables bias, right? In the sense that so it's really the only reason that you would have a bike helmet is for safety reasons, but there's also costs involved with the bike helmet, like the fact that A, it's going to be hotter, and B, you like might not like the way you look, and C, like when you get to your destination, you still have this helmet you have to carry around with you and stuff. So you basically people's willingness to pay for the bike helmet is like on the one hand there's this risk reduction that they're willing to pay for, on the other hand there's these sort of like costs to the helmet that we don't necessarily know how much the person like values, and so it's actually difficult to back out exactly how much they're paying for the risk reduction when we're not able to value those costs as well. So in most cases there's still a omitted variable bias problem. The second thing that might be less obvious but could potentially be important also is that if you're thinking about the valuation of durable goods, that's actually going to depend heavily on your assumptions about discount rates. So like if you take something like the automobile, so that's something you might keep for 10 years, or the house is something you might keep for 30 years. So then you have to think about like, so let's say the house, right, you're going to keep that for 30 years, and in each year, so you're thinking like, if I buy the house that's next to the toxic waste dump, I have this elevated risk of death in year 1, in year 2, in year 3, and so forth. So there's that cost that's being realized over a 30-year period, and the amount that you're willing to pay for the house is all going to be, or pay for a house that's not near a toxic waste site, that's all going to be realized sort of in the immediate period, at least in terms of the purchase price. Of course, you can get mortgages and stuff, but what we're going to record is the purchase price of the house. And so when you sort of do the comparison, you need to discount the future benefits of the house, which will be, so the house is not near the toxic waste site. You need to discount those future benefits back to the current year to compare it to the difference in the house prices. And the amount that, the amount that the net present value of those, or the number you get from the net present value of those benefits is going to depend very heavily on the discount rate. I mean, when you're talking like a 30-year period, if you say a discount rate of like 4% versus one that's 8%, it's going to have a tremendous impact on what you calculate the benefits, the net present value of those benefits as being. And so to the extent that we don't know people's discount rates, which is almost always the case, then there's a lot of ambiguity in like exactly what the net present value of the benefits should be. Did you have another question? Okay, so I guess that's it for today. We'll talk about the international labor market studies on Monday, and then we'll talk about two specific examples of studies, one looking at highway deaths and speed limits, and the other one looking